Okay, so Brett, here's a question I want to ask you. I know you like football. Do you watch in the playoffs even when your team is not in it?
I I do. In fact, I don't really have a great NFL team. I'm more of a college football guy, and
Yeah,
I go back and forth on which team to follow. I know you're a big Bears fan, so you watch your team. Oh, and you're a big Ute fan. Thank you for showing.
and I'm wearing my Ute shirt. Yeah, yeah,
Very good. We're both big Ute fans. I think we mentioned on the last show we went to the Rose Bowl together. It was a
yeah.
sad outcome, but a fun game.
Yes.
So you're a big Bears fan. So you watch all the time, right?
I mean,
I
yes, the Bears are never in the playoffs, but yes, I do.
So the closest team I have that I follow is the Niners, but I haven't really been following them in a lot of years. In some future date, I'll tell you why I follow the Niners, but I don't really have a team. But I definitely get excited about the playoffs. Yes. So to answer your question,
Okay.
love watching the playoffs, love the Super Bowl, one of my favorite things of the year. How
Okay,
about
so that leads me into the next part of my question is kind of a two-parter. Um, because since the Bears rarely are ever in the playoffs, um, we started this tradition, and our tradition is it's with the Super Bowl, not necessarily just the playoffs themselves, but whatever two teams are in the Super Bowl. So like this year, you have the Eagles and the Chiefs. We'll pick one team, and whatever city they're from will make some of their local food for the Super Bowl. So in previous years, the Eagles were in a number of years ago, back like I don't know, maybe it was like 10 years ago or whatever, when T.O. and Donovan McNabb were on the team. Maybe it's more than that. I don't even know. But we made, for example, Philly cheesesteaks. So I wanted to ask and see if you have any Super Bowl traditions.
that is a really good question, and I think food is one of the main features of watching the Super Bowl. And although your idea sounds pretty cool, I have a tradition of eating the same food for every Super Bowl, going all the way back to when my dad would cook a meal for the Super Bowl. He would cook the same meal. And the reason I like doing it that way is because it's something that you look forward to. It's something you can practice year after year and get better at making that recipe. And when you even think about it, we're 2 weeks out from the Super Bowl right now at time of recording, and my mouth is already starting to salivate as I think about some of the food. So I'm not really sold on your idea because I mean, you're a better cook than me, but if I did that and tried to make all these different meals, it might not taste good, and then it would maybe ruin the whole Super Bowl for me. I'm like, I don't even like this food, or maybe I didn't cook it very well.
Okay, so what is this meal? I need to know.
So, it's a couple things, and it's very simple. Okay, it's just a big old plate of nachos, but like layered nachos with as much stuff as you can put on it, and just mountains and tons of ounces, probably tons of pounds of cheese, and
Okay.
my favorite part, of course, is the homemade cooked shrimp still in the shell. So you have to deshell it after it's cooked. And my dad will he'll cook it always the day before so it can chill overnight. And he's got this homemade cocktail sauce, and it's just, my mouth is just watering just thinking about it right now.
Okay, Brett.
What?
First off, back up. So you had me at nachos.
Yeah, of course.
However, you lost me as soon as you said shrimp. I don't care how it's cooked, anything out of the ocean. No, do not put that on your nachos ever. Don't put it on
No,
anything.
no, no,
It's
no,
not
no.
even food.
I'm not
It's a
putting
little
it
scum
on
at the
my
bottom of the ocean.
nachos. Nobody puts shrimp on their nachos. That's clearly coming from someone who doesn't know a darn thing about shrimp, because you would
Oh,
never
you
put
got
them
that
on
right.
nachos. Maybe on a taco.
They're the cockroaches of the ocean,
The
basically.
cockroach.
They're the scum of the bottom of the ocean. Don't put it in your body. Just don't.
Oh, it is delicious. I mean, and you put it in. You get a really nice cocktail sauce to dip it in, and you've got that fresh out of the ocean flavor, and you've got those, just that cool, crisp, kind of spongy texture that just permeates all your senses. Come on, it's great.
Okay, so here's the thing: seafood, like, and I know I'm a very picky eater, but seafood just grosses me out. Like, I can't do it. Like, there's no amount of money anyone could offer me. Like, I've heard people say, like, if I gave you $500, would you eat like fish? No, I wouldn't. I just, no way. However, and this is more just general fish, discussion. Whenever people describe supposedly good tasting fish, you know how they describe it? It's not fishy. Have you ever heard someone describe a steak like this steak is so good, it doesn't taste like steak? It's like, no, you want it to taste like steak. If you don't want it to taste like fish, the best way to have it not taste like fish is to not have it be fish or seafood in general. So
I must admit, I've had this debate with you before. I know you're not a big seafood lover, but I've never heard you use that argument before. That's classic. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. So I can't really argue with that. So I guess you win, Josh. So maybe we should just start the show. I can't even argue with that anymore.
Okay, I guess. Doc, get on your bicycle. Mac, put on your pink hoodie and high tops, and let's get this thing going. Welcome to Fit Dad Game Dad, a monthly podcast where two middle-aged dads encourage each other to reach both their fitness and their couch gaming goals. I'm your host, Josh Stapleton, and with me, as always, is the only principal to make detention fun and the 2023 JSA Principal of the Year, Brett Bodden.
Wow. What... Is this what I have to look forward every time? This kind of introduction? I don't even know what a JSA Principal of the Year is, but I am definitely all about making detention fun.
Brett, I am very hurt. JSA is a Josh Stapleton Awards, so you are the JSA Principal of the Year.
Oh, the Josh Stapleton. Oh my gosh, I won a Josh Stapleton. Oh, I don't even know what. Thank you for this honor, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. I mean, if we were in person, I'd come up onto the stage and punch you in the face out of pure love and joy, just like the Oscars. But
I was hoping you would ask what the heck a JSA is instead of just like yeah, of course I want it. Yeah.
I didn't know you were gonna say that in the intro, and but that's probably the only Principal of the Year award I will ever earn. So I humbly accept, and probably one of the reasons they won't give me a reward is because I do make detention too fun. I have been accused by teachers of being too nice to kids. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. These are 5 to 11-year-olds. They have a lot of life left to live, and and I hate to wax philosophical right now and go really deep because it's supposed to be a fun podcast, but seriously, these are children, right? And children should have fun, and I'm just a big kid, and that's why I'm doing this podcast with you. I mean, look behind us. Those of you that can't see it, we're surrounded by toys, and you're surrounded by toys behind you, so I do it for the kids, all right? Yeah, I make detention fun. Sue me. Fire me. What you gonna do?
Well, I remember years ago when you told me about what was in your office and basically how you set it up. And so, yeah, just tell the listeners what can they expect what can a kid expect when he comes into your office?
Well, a lot of the kids that come into my office, let me start by saying, are boys. The 80% of discipline referrals nationwide in schools are boys, and that's telling. And once again, I don't want to get too philosophical here or get off the path, but the point is, one of the reasons I think that is the case is because boys learn better through play and physical activity in general. Not all boys, right? And the school system right now, as we know it, is designed to sit in a chair all day and listen to your teacher. I mean, that's way overgeneralization because there's some amazing teachers out there that have a lot of engaging activities where kids are up and moving or whatnot. So,
Right.
there's a lot of kids who have some attention deficit disorders, or I like to call it just being a boy. I mean, because we're sitting all day. These boys are sitting all day and they just want to be active. And so one of the things I've also been accused of is kids can't focus when they come into my office because behind me in my office, now this is my home office, but it looks very similar to my work office. I've got Mario toys, and I've got Legos, I've got Winnie the Pooh Legos, and I've got Sesame Street Legos, and I got Pirates of the Caribbean Legos. And so kids come in and they're kind of like looking all over the place like, whoa, what's that? Where'd you get that? Oh, can I see that? And I have to snap and get their attention like, hey, you're in trouble. Look at me right now. But I'm laughing inside because, of course, I can relate to those kids. And then, front and center behind me, I got myself a conference room television. You know, because if you're having a staff meeting, you need to display your PowerPoint presentation. But the real reason is, this is where I think you're going with this question. I bring my Nintendo Switch in and I hook it up to my conference room TV.
Yeah.
And we do some playing of the Switch with some of my kids at the school. In fact, we had a bunch of kids down in my office playing Super Smash Brothers today. Always a great time, and of course I use it as an incentive. You know, you hear about schools, they'll give little treats to kids or pencils or something, but we got the Principal's Gamers Club at my school.
Nice. And that's why you're the 2023 JSA Principal of the Year.
And
you've earned this.
I've earned it from Josh Stapleton because he's the only one that recognizes the importance of gaming in a young man's education.
I'll tell you this. I don't hand out this award lightly. So you might be the one and only ever to get it. So there you go.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
Well, Brett, it is February. So with it being February, it means it's time to check and see if January was full of pains and gains. So I think we need to get into the skill tree.
Let's get into the skill tree. Oh, this is your chance, I think, to earn some awards, Josh, because I'm kind of glancing at the skill tree right now to see how we both did in January. And I think it's time for you to receive a lot of awards. Why don't we start with you? And we're going to go through our goals we set last month. And for the listeners, if we completed our goal, we get 2 points. If we partially completed our goal, we get 1 point. If we totally screwed it up, which is gonna happen, people, you get some 0 points. Now, every time we get 5 points, we level up. That's the skill tree. So let's see. It's kind of a competition we're gonna have throughout this podcast, is to see who can reach the highest level at the end of the year. So, actually, Josh, I'm looking at the skill tree. You are gonna earn a lot of points, but both of us started out on a kind of low note, didn't we, on our first goal? Let's just get the bad news out of the way. Yeah, tell us what's going on there with our first.
Okay. I'm glad you ended with that, because the way you were setting this up is like, Josh, you're gonna get all these points. I'm like, oh crap, the first subject isn't looking so hot. Okay, so the first one we got to go over is our co-op, and we both had the same goal because it's co-op. And our goal was for both of us to finish God of War. Now, last month, if I remember correctly, I was about 6 hours into God of War, and I think you were about 10 hours into God of War.
That sounds right.
Okay. Now, I'll just get this out of the way. I did not finish God of War. So I get a big fat 0 in co-op. Brett, did you finish God of War?
Well, Josh, let's put it this way. I started out in the lead. I was ahead of you in God of War. And there was a certain moment in the game I told you about, without spoilers, but I said, when you
Boy.
get there it is, boy. I said, when you get there,
Boy.
we'll be tied. And I said, you text me when you get there. And sure enough, you did. And then you kept texting me, and you kept texting me about what was happening in the game. And I was still back on the boy. And that's where I stayed. So I only picked up God of War one time in the month of January. So I get myself a big old fat 0 as well. So what happened? Why did we
boy.
fall? Oh, boy.
Oh boy.
Oh, boy. What happened? Why did we fall off the bandwagon here with our co-op goal?
Okay, so I'll say this. Even when we set the goal, one of the things that I like to do a lot is to go on the website How Long to Beat and look at how long a game is. I'm sure there are other gamers that do the same thing, but maybe there's a lot that just don't care or whatnot. But I really like to track where I'm at. And I saw that the game is probably around, I don't remember exactly, but around 40 hours to beat. And so being 6 hours in and needing to get to 40, for me, that's a lot in a month. Even if that's the only game I played, which, you know me, I tend to squirrel, and lose my lose my train of thought and try something else. But
You're just like one of those little boys in my office, you know. If you were one of those kids, you'd come in and you'd be like, Mr. Bond, Mr. Bond, Mr. Bond, what's that? That's you with gaming. You're all over the place.
Okay, so not to derail this right from the beginning, but I think that one of the themes of this podcast is derailment. But I saw a video where it was a time lapse, and it was two students working on a project. One of them had ADD, the other one did not. And over the time lapse, it said, "Can you tell which one is?" And the one that had it, he was just fidgeting and moving every second, twisting, turning, getting so distracted, while the other one was just laser focused. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I am the twidgeting. I'm that guy.
Yeah, that probably looked like a contortionist. I can imagine. That's funny. You got to send me that video. I'd love to see that because I have some ADD, and I think you've admitted you probably have some too, right?
Yeah. So, anyways, I guess at the end of the month, I was, I think, 19 hours. Right now, I'm sitting right around 21. So I'm just barely around, probably halfway, maybe a little bit past, depending on, if you're trying to more main mission the game or not. So I still have a ways to go on God of War. Do you know how many hours you're into it?
Let's see. Last month I said 10, right? Yeah, I think I'm sitting at about 11. So I made some real big progress there. But
you did.
Yeah. So let me say, similar to you, I look at How Long to Beat, and I also looked at How Long to Beat for my other gaming goal, which we'll get to in a minute. And between the two of them, I by about the second week of January, I had realized I hadn't done any gaming. It had just been, I just got hit with a ton of work. I had some consultants fly out from Pennsylvania that the state assigned to work with my school, and it was a really, really big deal, and I had to give a presentation to the State Board of Education, and I was just working. I think I texted you 14, 15-hour days. So by week 2, I'm like, I haven't done any gaming. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to focus on Assassin's Creed 2 because it's a little bit smaller. It's more like a 20-hour game, and we'll get to what happened there in just a minute. But that's why God of War got put on the back burner. Loving the game so far, though. I'm loving that you... Hopefully there's no spoilers here. I'll try to keep it very spoiler-free, but I'm loving that there are missions where you play just as Atreus, and then there are missions where you play as Kratos and Atreus, and I'm just loving that aspect of it so far, that you're getting... Because when they're separated, you're hearing them talk about the other person, and that person's not there. And then when they get back together, you're hearing them talk, and you know what they're not telling each other. And the unspokenness between them creates a lot of tension. I'm loving that aspect of the story.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. And even though, and I'll kind of talk about this a little bit later, even though I tend to struggle just to stick with one game, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm not enjoying it. I just do have that squirrel mentality where I see a video, hear someone talk about something else, and I'm like, ooh, I want to check this out, and I get sidetracked. So yeah, so God of War. There we go. Neither one of us finished it. We both still have a ways to go on that. So 0 points for both of us.
Way to start this podcast with a big old goose egg for
Yeah.
both of us. But let's move into what I was saying earlier, because now is where you're going to bring home the money, Josh. The rest of your goals, it looks like you killed it. So tell us what happened with your side quests. Both of us did good on the side quests because, and very, this won't happen again. Well, probably not again, where we both have the same side quest. So we both did pretty good with this side quest. What did we do here?
Yeah, well, in side quests, typically going forward, we're going to have more than one, but just for the first month, we just each had one, and it was the same one. So we will score the same on this. And the side quest was to attend a dinner at your house to see your brand new, beautiful house. And yeah, that did happen. We made that happen couple weeks ago, pretty early in the month, I think, or maybe it was middle month. I don't know, but yeah, we did definitely knock that out. We didn't wait till the last minute, and that was a lot of fun being able to finally, I've been over to your house as it was being built, but to finally see it was just great. It looks wonderful. It's beautiful. Yeah, it's definitely a dream house. So congrats.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure having you over. We haven't had a chance to host anyone. We moved in around October, and it's no small thing to get the Bodens and Stapletons together. You've got 4 kids. I've got 3 kids. Your kids are busy. My kids are busy. Your wife works at an incredibly demanding job. We live about an hour away from each other, and you nailed it on the head when you said we didn't wait till the last minute. Typically, that's what we do. So I'm really proud of us. I think we earned our 2 points because we got it scheduled nice and early. It was so fun having you over. It's always fun to see my wife and your wife, Janine is my wife, Steph is your wife, having a good time together. And I was super happy because they initiated with some of our kids a card game, and we did not have to play. Now, you might think that's strange because we're big gamers, but we don't really like card games, and they do. And so they were upstairs playing card games after dinner, and we got to sneak downstairs and watch my daughter play some Genshin Impact on the PlayStation 4.
Yeah, which was cool because I've never seen it. And card games to me is like math homework. It's like if you go on social media, especially you see this a lot on Facebook, where someone will post an apple equals 2 and an orange equals 5 and a donut equals 7, and then let's make a bunch of math problems, and you have like 700 comments on, it's basically like order of operations, right? And everyone screws that up. But I look at those and I'm just like, where is the fun? You guys are giving yourselves math homework. When I was a kid, this is what I didn't want. Why would I want it now? So that's what card games are to me. And my wife is much smarter than I am. And so I think card games are probably for the more intelligent folk, not for me.
This is true. This is true. We are not intelligent men, and we definitely married. We married up. So anyway, thanks for coming over. That was fun. I'm glad you could see the house. And one of the things you mentioned that you came over before the house was built, and you helped me install some speakers. And at the time you had come to my house, I don't think I had actually finished installing them. And that was one of my goals. I didn't write it down as far as a side quest. It should have been, because it's taken me months to actually get up in there and find the wires that you and I put behind the sheetrock and connect them to the speakers. And what I didn't tell you, I don't even think I've told you this on a text yet, is you picked up 4 ceiling speakers for me from a yard sale at
Right.
a great deal, right? And I installed them just fine, but they were old enough that Now, by installing them, I mean I put them in the ceiling, but I never connected the wires. I had to do that to pass the
Okay.
building inspection or whatever, right? But I just didn't have time to go in and strip the wires and connect them, blah, blah, blah. So I had to take them back out of the ceiling and try to connect the wires. Well, it went so smooth for the first two speakers. I was really worried about it because I'm like, they were kind of a pain to get up in there. And that was kind of why it took me months to get to it. Well, the last two speakers broke when I was disconnecting them. And so right now,
No.
yes, they are being held up on the ceiling with duct tape. So I've got this nice new house with these wires behind the sheetrock that you spent hours of your time on a Saturday helping me run. And I've got this janky 7.1 surround sound system in the back. Two rear speakers are being held together by duct tape. So anyway, be on the lookout for me at yard sales this summer for two more ceiling speakers.
Nice. Yeah, I love that, and you know that I love yard sales. You know that I'll be out at yard sales, and as yard sale season comes upon us, I'll definitely be talking more about it because it's funded a lot of the collection behind me if you're watching on video. So yeah, I'll definitely keep an eye out.
Well, and you always find great stuff for me too, so I benefit from it. So I can't wait to hear about the things you find at these yard sales. Let's hear about how you did on your gaming goal. Now, your gaming goal is part of the main quests, and there's three parts. There's a gaming goal, a fitness goal, and an eating goal. Your gaming goal is to finish the story mode of WWE Day of Reckoning on the GameCube.
Yes. Okay. So I got to kind of say a little bit of a backstory. So last month, when I made this goal, I kind of said something along the lines of, I think this will be pretty easy. And I wanted to make most of my focus be on God of War. So I felt that this was appropriate. And while I did beat it, How Long to Beat listed this at about 6 hours, and they lie. Because yeah, it took much longer. I think really the reason I say they lie, but really there's probably not a whole lot of people. There's not a whole lot of data, and it's not like modern games where it's really easy to track. But for me, I want to say it was probably 12 to 14 hours, somewhere around there. I know I texted you one night that I stayed up. I started playing at 10:30 and I stayed up till 2 in the morning just to win the freaking Royal Rumble. So yeah, so it took some commitment. There were a couple times where I started to sweat a little bit, thinking like, what have I got myself into? It's a wrestling game, and I haven't watched wrestling in almost 25 years, but I grew up playing wrestling games. They're just a good game to kind of turn your mind off and just have fun. I still did really have a good time, but I guess it just took a lot longer than I did. But yes, I beat it.
That is
So Brett,
very impressive. I want to congratulate you because that took incredible perseverance, and to stay up that long for one match, I don't know how I would have rage quit. So you definitely earned 2 points for that. Congratulations, and I'm glad you still enjoyed the game. Great job.
yeah, I did, but it got to the point where I was like, I can't. And the Royal, okay, just to back up too, you play through a career where you have a made up character and you bring them up the ranks. Once they actually make it into the WWE, you have to play through. I think it was like 15 months. You start in January, you play through a whole calendar year, and then the next couple months, because WrestleMania, I want to say, is March or April. Some wrestling fan will be like, how do you not know this? But like I said, it's been like 25 years. But so basically you do about 15 months, and the Royal Rumble happens like 2 months before. So I was near the very end. So I kind of had to just push through. But enough of that. Brett, tell us about how your gaming goal went.
Well, I mentioned that I had two games. We mentioned God of War, and then I looked at How Long to Beat and realized there's no way I was going to beat both of them. So I started focusing on Assassin's Creed and wasn't making a lot of progress there either. And we got down to the last, I'd say, 5 days of January. And I'm looking at what I had on my schedule as far as my family obligations, my work obligations. And at that point, I realized I'm not going to beat Assassin's Creed either. And like you were saying a minute ago, the pressure. I had this insane amount of pressure that I've never felt in gaming before. I was like, I'm on a podcast about video games. I have to achieve one of my video game goals here. So I'm looking around. What can I do? How can I squeeze in time? Maybe I need to take a day off of work. Josh, this is what I'm thinking. So I can play video games, okay? And then my wife reminded me that I have to pay for this new house. So I went to work, but then at work, because remember I have my Switch at work, I was changing out a cartridge for a student, and there I saw Hyrule Warriors. I had started that game back in June, and I had gotten to chapter 4. And I stopped, and I was trying to remember, why did I stop playing this game? This was such a cool game. And I was like, I stopped because I wanted to mainline story mode that game. I didn't want to do a lot of side missions. And just because just in general, I don't have a lot of time to game. Clearly, I've failed twice at the 2 games on my goals. So I didn't realize Hyrule Warriors required you. I shouldn't say required you, but I couldn't move on to the next main story until I had done some grinding on some side quests to level up my character. I didn't realize that was a part of Hyrule Warriors, or because I'd never played that series before. And that really turns me off sometimes. Sometimes it's okay, depends on the game, but that just turned me off to that game, and I just put it aside and forgot about it. So I look at how long to beat, and I look at how many chapters there are, and there's 7 chapters. Well, I'm on chapter 4. And like I said, I had about 5 days left, so I'm doing the math. 3 chapters, 5 days. I think I can make this happen. It was not easy, like you were saying. I had to really stick with it and persevere, and there was one boss I got to in chapter 6 where I felt like I was playing Elden Ring again, and it took me 3 days to beat that one boss. So literally on the 5th and last day of January 31st, I finished Hyrule Warriors. Now, I know that wasn't my main goal, but if it's okay with you, I'm going to give myself 1 point, because finishing a game, especially something I started back in June, is an accomplishment I think worth celebrating. Are you okay with me giving myself 1 point?
Well, I'll put it to you this way. Since this is a competition, there's a competitive part of me that kind of wants to be like, no, that wasn't it. However, being your friend and knowing that this is a game that you started a long time ago, and I also know how good it feels to come back and knock something off your backlog, especially when you started it. And I remember when you started playing it, I was excited because I played through this game as well. I enjoyed it, and I really like what they did with I played it mostly for the story. Like you, I haven't played other Warrior games, but Hyrule Warriors was one that I wanted to play because of how the story ties into Breath of the Wild. So yes, I will let you have this point. You earned it. Way to go. I was really proud when I got that text that you beat that game.
Yes! Thank you so much. And it did feel so good. I mean, just there's not another feeling like finishing a game. Just a wonderful feeling, right? And the story was so cool. And I'm so glad I actually remembered to go back to it and finished it, because Breath of the Wild 2 is coming out soon, right? And so it's got that great backstory to what happened before the original Breath of the Wild. And so cool to play some of those characters that you only hear about in Breath of the Wild. And in this game, you actually get to be those characters and hear them talk and see their cool abilities. They had some really cool special attacks and moves and things that you could, and combo attacks that you could do that I just thought it was really good, and the story was really good. The only thing I really didn't like was kind of that grinding a little bit. I can see the appeal though, because there was a lot to do in that game, and for people who are completionists, that was a fun game for them, because I probably only completed on average 10% of each area. I mean, there's so much more to that game. Some really cool things in terms of depth there, but that's not why I played the game. So I'm glad I finished it. Thanks for the 1 point. let's move on to our last two goals. They're health related, so we're getting a little more serious here for a moment because you had a really awesome fitness goal and an eating goal. Why don't we talk about both of those at the same time for you?
Okay. So, well, yeah, and like you said, really these are the meat and potatoes. This is really the true focus. The gaming stuff is fun. Um, but really when we created the podcast, the hope was that it would motivate us to do, to do a little more, to be a little more active, to just get in better shape. And so my fitness goal was to lose 7 pounds, which for me was something I knew I could achieve in the first month as long as I stuck with it. I know how my body is, and typically, because I've done this a couple times before, when I kind of start getting back in to being active and watching what I'm eating, the weight will come off the fastest at the beginning, even though it will slow down as the process goes. So 7 pounds didn't seem daunting, but it also would mean that I would have to get started and to really make some progress. So just to be fully transparent, I started off January weighing 271.9 pounds. I'm 6'4" and I was 271.9. So that was the exact measurement. I ended January at, and I didn't write this down, but I do remember 255.5. So I might need a calculator, but I want to say it was around 16 pounds down.
Well, we already established we don't do math, so that's okay. You don't need to calculate.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
know it's more than
like,
7 pounds, right?
Right.
Good job.
So yeah. So I felt really good about that. Still have a ways to go, but I was really happy to have that first month out of the way to get me on track and get going and to just smash past that goal. And you wanted me to do the eating one as well while I'm talking. So just my eating one was to log 100% of what I would eat in the month, and then to be under calories 80% of the days. I logged every single thing I ate. Now there is some things where you kind of have to estimate, right? Like if you, I don't know, make a sandwich, like I would try and say, okay, like I probably have 80 calories worth of cheese. I'd look up how much the bread is and do my best to be as accurate as can and not like to, lie to myself, because that's real easy to be like, oh, this is only 200 calories when it's, 600 or something like that, right?
Well, they say that's one of the number one problems with people who track calories is that you underestimate. And if you don't have an exact measurement of it and you are estimating, it's always better to overestimate just to be safe. Right. Safe in terms of like this, to make sure you're not overeating if you're really wanting to see results from this. So kudos for you for recognizing that and doing that.
Yeah. So, and like I said, I tried to be as accurate as possible. I'm sure it wasn't 100% accurate. I mean, it can't be, but definitely as accurate as possible. So I did log 100% of the days, 100% of everything I ate. And then my goal along with that was to be under calories 80%. I was under 89%. I did the math on that one. So I think it was 3 or 2 cheat days. One was kind of just like, hey, I haven't had a cheat day yet. So I just wanted one, and I had one just to keep me kind of sane. So I don't feel bad about that. And then I know another one was kind of one of those things where I was doing really good all day long, and then dinner time, I just got over hungry and just kind of lost it. And as long as that's really a minority type thing, like 11% out of the month, like I'm okay with that. Like there are times where you just need to eat a little bit more, where your body feels hungry. So yeah, I'm really pleased with 89% when the goal was 80.
So impressive. And even more impressive is you can do math right there. You did the math. So that's the most impressive part. No,
I used a calculator.
What? Yeah. Okay. No, seriously though, when you do have that, so you had a planned cheat day, right? and a second
Right.
cheat day because you were hungry, a little frustrated, tired, whatever it may be, I'm more impressed with the second cheat day that you maintained focus, because for me, what happens in those situations is you can get down on yourself when you have an unplanned cheat day. And you can be like,
Right.
see, I tried to set this goal and here I am, I'm failing at it. And, why even bother? This is just the sign that I'm not going to stick with it. And that is bad thinking. We need to train our brains to forgive ourselves. Just put it away as having one bad day and pick ourselves right back up. So great job on doing that. That's impressive.
Well, and I don't know if you're the same way as me, but let's just say you start off the morning with like a donut, right?
Or
For
two,
me, if
like
I
I
do
did this
something like-
Wednesday. Remember, I texted
But
you on the
if-
first day of
Yes.
February. This is, by the way, today is February
Yes.
3rd that we're recording this podcast. Josh sends me a message January 31st, and says, "Finish the month strong." And I'm like, dude, I'm so glad we're doing this. This is exactly why we're doing this podcast, because I need that, pumping each other up and encouragement. And then the next day I thought I'd do the same. And so I took a picture of 2 donuts that my secretary gave me at work and said, "Start the month off right, Josh."
Yeah. Well, but what I was going to say is for me, it's this mental thing where if I start off the morning wrong, then it's not kind of this attitude of, well, I already screwed up this morning. Might as well screw up lunch and screw up dinner. So I'm really trying to get past that notion of, well, I failed now, so I might as well fail the rest of the day and then start fresh the next day. And that is a mental hurdle. So when I did say I had that one day that was kind of an unplanned one, it was dinner time. And it really was more of like a cheat meal, slash dessert, right? And like I said, I'm not happy about it, but I'm not going to beat myself up over it either. You did mention something though that I want to touch on is us communicating with each other and motivating each other. I got a message middle of the month from someone who listened to the podcast, a friend of mine, and he just said, "Hey, it was fun listening to you guys talk. Keep up the great." It was just something kind of simple, and I wasn't having a bad stretch by any sense. I was doing well, but I kind of felt mentally like I was kind of teetering a little, like I was kind of just like, I don't know if I really feel it, but just getting that simple encouragement made such a difference. And it was kind of like, okay, yes, I'm remotivated. I'm going, we're going to do this. So yeah, those little things make a big difference.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because motivation is key, and you only have so much of it yourself. And it's hard for me, and maybe for other people out there, to ask other people for help. I'm that kind of person, and especially when it comes to motivation. And I'm glad that you brought up the listener, because we did have some listeners. I was surprised. We said from the onset that we don't care if anyone listens to this. And
right,
you can find us to communicate with us throughout the month on social media. And we did have a few people reach out to us. So if you need some motivation, if you just need Josh or I to be like, "You got this, man," reach out to us. You can find us on fitdadgamedad.com. And all our social media links are up there. We're on Twitter, and we're on Instagram, and we're on Discord. So, sorry, I just had to put in a little plug there. Not because I'm trying to promote our podcast. We're not in it for that, but because there might be someone else out there who just needs a little extra motivation. That's why we're doing this. We're not just doing it for each other. We're doing it hopefully for any other guys out there that are feeling like we are. So, anyway, that's cool that you were able to experience that and get that extra motivation from a listener. And you get 2 points for each of those goals. So great job.
And I will say this, and I'll try and be quick with it, but it reminded me, and sorry, it's making me feel a little emotional just thinking about my friend Bobby. Couple of years back, more than a couple of years ago, Bobby Pauls and I would text each other every single morning. First person when I woke up that I would message, and we would check in on each other to see how our previous day went with our fitness goals. And we lost Bobby from COVID, and so yeah. Anyways, it does make a difference, and that was one of the things that I thought a lot about when forming this podcast was Bobby, and how much that meant to me to have that person that, it's one thing to have your spouse, right? But I don't know why this might sound funny, but I felt more accountability to someone outside of the home. I didn't want to let him down. Where maybe it's just more of a comfort level within your own home. So anyways, sorry about that, but it just got me thinking about him, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. But he was definitely a motivating factor, and one of the reasons why we're doing this.
Well said. And I didn't know Bobby like you did, but I've heard nothing but amazing things about him, and what a loss to the world and to people who knew him and his family. And I know this won't be the last time we talk about him on this podcast, because he was such a big inspiration to you, and
Yeah.
and what a tribute to him. So thanks for sharing. And I hate to follow that up,
Sorry.
but that's okay, because we're already on a slight downer, so I'll just keep us down low and tell you how crappy I did at my goals. You just killed it at
Oh,
yours.
jeez.
So my 2 goals, I didn't do so good, Josh. But I would have gotten. I'm going to give myself 1 point for each of my goals, because I did okay. I didn't. It's not like I gave up. Let me tell you what I did, what the goals were, and what I did, and why I'm giving myself 1 point. But I can tell you, I would not have given myself a point if I hadn't had this podcast. I had a rough January for all kinds of reasons. We all have stuff in our lives, whether it's like you mentioned with Bobby, a dear friend passing away, and nothing like that happened to me, but there were some life things that happened they're pretty intense for me in January personally, and it's really hard to stay focused when those kinds of things happen. And so I thank you, because this podcast kept me doing some of the things, just not quite to the level of my goal, but enough that I felt like I moved forward. I made progress, and that I feel good about that. So my goal was to exercise 5 days a week for 20 minutes a day. That was my fitness goal. That would have been, obviously, 5 times 4 is 20. I ended up exercising 16 times. So 16 doesn't sound like a horrible number. That's 4 times a week, if you break it down. And it wasn't my goal. I didn't quite achieve it, but that's better still than I did in December, and better than I've done for sometimes in a whole year, depending on where I was in my life. So if it's okay with you, I'm going to give myself a point. I do want to try and get up to 5 at some point, but I did do 4. And then my eating goal was to log 100% of my calories. I didn't care if I was under or over my calorie goal, because for me it was just getting back in that routine of logging them, because I had gotten out of that routine. And I was going to give myself 1 cheat day where I just didn't have to log anything. Just the tediousness sometimes of logging food, like you were saying earlier. Not that you had a problem with this, but you were just mentioning that sometimes you might not be into it one day, and sometimes that repetition of entering it and the tedious factor gets me unmotivates me. So I did take those 1 cheat days, but the reason I'm not giving myself 2 points, I did log all of my food on all the other days, like I said I would. except for there was about a couple of those days I mentioned where I was having a rough day personally, where I ate something after I had closed out my log for the day. I typically would close out my log at about 8:30. I don't eat after that. And there was like 2 days where I was like, I really it's interesting because I thought I was done. I thought I was in a good spot, and then both those days something happened in the evening that emotionally got to me that I wasn't expecting to happen after I had finished my last meal. And unfortunately, I'm an emotional eater sometimes. I think we all are. And so I turned to ice cream one day and I turned to a bowl of cereal the other, and I didn't log it, which is interesting because if I had just logged it, I would have got my goal. But I was kind of ashamed, and I shouldn't have been because I should have just realized, no, just put it in there. But sometimes you get stuck in those shame cycles, and that's why it's good to come and reflect with you once a month so I can realize that I had nothing to be ashamed of. That wasn't my goal, just log it. But I didn't. So I got to be honest about it. So I'm only giving myself 1 point for each of those. So in summary here, if we just go back, Josh, real quick before we move on, looks like you earned 2, 4, 6, 8 points. So you leveled up to level 1. Congratulations.
Yes.
And you're only 2 points away from level 2. Now, I only got 2, 3, 4, 5 points. By the skin of my teeth, I got to level 1 as well. But
there you go.
I'm not near level 2 yet. But we do have an opportunity to earn 2 more points before we finish this podcast today, and that is through our mini game. So, let me set the stage here. It is possible whoever wins the mini game will get the 2 points. It is possible for you to get to level 2 because you're 8 right now. So if you won the mini game, which we're going to do next, you'd hit 10 points, 10 points, and you'd be at level 2. Now, if I got the 2 points, I would go from 5 to 7, and then I'd only be 1 point behind you. And so I'm feeling like I really need those 2 points because you're starting to already, after 1 month of our episodes, starting to have a little gap between. I got to pick up some slack here, right? So should we have a mini game to see if we can earn 2 more points?
Let's lighten the mood and let's jump into the mini game.
Tonight's minigame is Do You Know Your Co-Host? We have 5 questions each and 3 options. Let's see who comes out victorious. All right, so this is the moment in our show every week where we'll play a little game. Today it's just a little, like I said, quiz game. In the future it might be like minute to win it type games that are auditory based so people can hear us participating. Anyway, this is just like you said, a fun way to lighten the mood, and we want our listeners to get to know us, but we also want to see how well we know each other. So we've each prepared 5 questions, multiple choice. The person who answers the most questions correctly gets the win, and the winner gets 2 points towards their leveling up on the skill tree. So who wants to go first? Josh? You want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go. I'll go first. So, Brett, my first question for you is, what is my favorite way to game? And here are the 3 options. First option, playing on the TV. Second option, playing handheld. Third option. Sorry,
I can't wait to hear the third. Now you've set that up.
Third
really well.
option is VR.
Okay, what I like about this game already is your third option, because I know you hate the VR. It makes you sick.
What?
And this is a little strategy I teach my students. If you don't know the answer, eliminate the ones you know for sure are wrong, and then you can guess better. So let's go ahead and take VR off the board. And I'm going to say, I think your second answer was handheld. Whichever one was handheld, I'm going to go with handheld because I know you're a very busy man and you have more time to play on handhelds?
Okay, you're not wrong in your rationale,
But I'm
the
wrong
answer
in
is
my
wrong.
answer. That was a trick question.
Really,
then. Good
it
question.
kind of was.
Okay,
So
tell me how I got that
threw
wrong.
in VR because I threw in VR because we obviously knew that would be a junk one. I wanted to narrow it down. However, it is a little bit of a trick question because I do really appreciate playing handheld and I love it. But if given the option, I would still rather play on the big screen. It's just I have more availability to play handheld, so I do love it. So it is a trick question. It's a dirty
That
trick
was a
question
dirty
to start off.
question. You're playing to win. I see what you did there.
That's right.
Nice. I appreciate that actually. Okay, I don't appreciate the fact I'm behind already in this game, but great question. All right. Well, now I feel like my questions are too easy, but here we go. I'm going to start with a.
And you say that, and I'm gonna totally go blank and get them all wrong. So
All right, here we go. So we both got our undergraduate degree from the University of Utah. But what school, Josh, did I get my master's degree from? Choices are A, Brigham Young University, B, Utah State University, C, Southern Utah University.
okay, well, no respectable person. Well, I should have said it. My dad went to BYU.
And we just lost half our listeners.
No, I'm just it's just a little rivalry.
Just
there.
a little rivalry, yeah.
I am going with Utah State because I remember when you went up there and when you lived in the dorm for a summer. And I'd laugh because it wasn't like you were 20 years old. It was like you're married with your family and you're like, hey, I'm going to go live up in the dorms with, college kids.
Married and 3 kids, living in the dorms. That was the life. Let's just save that for another day. There's a good story there for sure. But yes, you're correct. Utah State, good job. All right, 1-0. Next question, Josh.
Okay.
Let's tie this up.
Okay, and not all of my questions are video game related, but this next one is as well. What is my favorite controller of all time?
Xbox 360.
The options are the Wavebird, the Xbox Series 2 Elite controller, or the Xbox 360 controller. And I'm just going to say this, Brett. Remember, first question was a dirty trick.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that this won't be either.
Right. I already answered it, right? And I'm going to stick with that answer because I'm really confident in this one, but I would not be surprised if you played a dirty trick on me again. I know you love the Wavebird. I know you think it's so cool that it's wireless. I know you love your Series 2 controller. You love all the different options, especially that you can increase the tension on the thumbsticks. I mean, I've heard you say positive things about all of these controllers, but I have also heard you say many times that the 360 controller is the greatest controller ever made. So I'm just going to have to stick with that answer and pray you're not trying to trick me somehow. 360.
I almost selected 360.
Oh my gosh,
However-
you dirty dog. You're doing me dirty here.
However, it's the Series 2 Elite controller, and here's why.
I did not know
Because
that. I'm
at the-
learning something about you. This is actually really interesting.
If you just judge them based on the time they came out, yeah, it probably would be the 360 controller because I do love it, and I love all these controllers for different reasons. But this Elite Series 2 is, the Xbox controller hasn't really changed a lot since 360. It's just been refined and made better and better. So it's hard for me to say I would like a 360 if given the option. If you put both in my hand, it's like you have a 360, which is basically perfection for its time, or you have one that has even furthermore been refined and just an amazing controller. And you're right, I do love changing the tension on the joysticks. I love how you can change how far you can press in the triggers. So basically, because it is a souped up Xbox controller, I went with the Series 2 Elite. So sorry.
That is okay.
I tried to warn you, letting you know that I was doing dirty tricks. So.
You did, and I just thought you were what's it called, where you're using reverse psychology because you'd already done the dirty trick, and now you were trying to say it again to get me to think you weren't, but you really were. Anyway, great question.
Sorry.
Because no, I love it.
Yeah.
I love the level of competition here. I am behind. I've got to make up some ground here. Let's see if I can make up some ground with a gaming question of my own. Okay, I haven't asked you a gaming question yet. It might be easy one. I'm not sure. I don't know. These are all great answers, I think. But what is my favorite video game of all time? The choices are, all these are great games: The Last of Us, Alan Wake, Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild.
Ooh, gosh, and I know you love all three of these games. I don't think it's Alan Wake. As great as Alan Wake is, I don't think you would say it's your favorite of all time. I'm gonna go with The Last of Us. Yeah, I'm going with The Last of Us, and this is tough for me, but I do think it's The Last of Us.
Finally, I have to say no. You were so close. You were so close. And I have gone back and forth on these over the years, so I understand the confusion. But for this quiz, I went with Alan Wake. You were, and I understand why you were thinking that would not be my favorite game.
Wow.
Because it's not.
Wow.
As a game itself, you're right. It's not quite to the quality. Well, a lot of people are probably out there scratching their head and thinking that game's nowhere near as good as Last of Us or Breath of the Wild. I mean, those are two masterpieces. Alan Wake was never considered by anyone to be a masterpiece. But here's... Oh, Josh thinks it is. Okay.
By me, I raised my hand if you're just listening
maybe
to
this is a dirty question of my own, because I said what is my favorite game, not what is the greatest game that I think's been created.
Okay.
Okay.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Because if this were the greatest game ever created, I would have said Breath of the Wild. That's my number one on my list. It's my favorite because, as you know, I was into Nintendo. I was a Nintendo fanboy, and you introduced me to what I would call big boy consoles, and you let me borrow your PlayStation 3, and it's the first big boy console I ever played, and I played The Last of Us, and so that's why The Last of Us is on the list, because that was my initiation into big boy consoles. Well, then I ended up liking the big boy consoles, and so I bought myself an Xbox 360, which is interesting because... why didn't I buy myself a PlayStation 3 that you had loaned me? I ended up getting the Xbox 360 because most of my other friends were playing on Xbox at the time. And the first game I discovered by myself was Alan Wake. You had recommended The Last of Us, right? But there's something about watching E3 or reading magazines or reading online and getting hyped about a game that's coming out. And I remember the initial E3 trailer for Alan Wake and just thinking... that looks really intriguing, and just following the progression of the development of that game and not hearing really anyone else talk about it. And then when I got it, it was one of my first purchases, and played it, and it lived up to the hype for me. It felt like I had gone on this complete gaming journey. I had gone from a non-big boy gamer to buying my first console, finding my first real love of a game, and I felt like I owned it, and it belonged to me and no one else. No one else was talking about it as much as I was. So it's just a personal thing. It really initiated me into big boy gaming, for lack of a better word. And so that's why it's my favorite, because it really set the stage for the rest of my gaming life.
Okay, well, I can't argue with that, and it is a great game. So I'm actually excited you said that.
Okay. So two.
Okay.
Wait. You've gotten how many points have you gotten? 2 correct? No, you got 1 correct, and I've gotten 0 of your correct, right?
Okay. Yep.
1-0.
1-0. Okay. Last meal. So if I'm on death row and I get to pick my last meal, here are the choices: Chicago style pizza, ribs, or Spaghetti Eddie's Rigatoni?
Wow. Well, we ate Spaghetti Eggie's Rigatoni together, and it was good. It was just this random hole in the wall Italian place we found on the way
It was
home.
good.
But I don't remember you being euphoric about it, so I'm gonna once again scratch that one off the list. Now we're going to ribs and Chicago style. I know you like both of those, and honestly, I feel like I'm gonna give the wrong answer again, but I'm gonna go with my gut. Chicago style pizza. I'm not as sure anymore.
Yes, you got it. So now to be fair, there was a place years ago in California that their whole restaurant was spaghetti, ribs, and pizza. And goodness, I loved that place. But yeah, Chicago style pizza. If I don't care about gaining 600 pounds, give me that deep dish pizza. I mean, I'm a Chicago boy, so yeah, it's Chicago style pizza.
That is delicious stuff. And you and I stopped at Giordano's, which is in a famous Chicago deep dish place. They have one in Las Vegas. So on our way to California, we stopped, and it was divine. It was heaven in a box.
Yeah, I'll just say this: as far as trying to eat healthy, when I'm trying to eat healthy, pizza is like something that I really try and avoid because it's like a drug. It's like once I start eating it, I just make a fool out of myself. So yeah.
Yeah, well, that will be good last meal for you. So, all right. One of the things I do to earn pizza and some of my other treats, at least I used to do this in my 30s. I was a big runner. In fact, that's how you and I first met. We ran together.
Right.
And I really got into it to the point where I was running marathons and half marathons. And like I said, I was mainly doing this so that I could burn calories and eat more bad food. So I was never a really good runner because you can't eat all that crappy food and run and be really fast. You can eat all that crappy food and run and be mediocre. So I was very mediocre. But I did finish some marathons, full 26.6 miles. And I want to ask you how many complete marathons, not half marathons, I completed. The choices are 3, 5, or 10.
Okay, well, 10 seems way too high. I'm gonna go with 3. Gosh, I'm not sure, but I'm going with 3.
You are correct. Yes. 3.
Yes.
3 is all I could do, and I actually kind of feel bad about that because I know I could have done more if I had been more dedicated, and now my knees just can't handle it. And most of my runner friends kind of poo-poo 3. They kind of look down on you. You know, runners are kind of snobby. Some of them, I admire them a lot, but most of them are like, I just ran my 100th marathon, or something ridiculous. And I always wanted to get to an even dozen. I thought, a dozen sounds like a good solid number, but I came nowhere near that goal. And I'm pretty much done with my marathoning. But yep, you nailed it. 3 is all I could get in my lifetime. But my wife always tells me, hey, 3, even 1 is more than 80% of the people in the world. So
yeah,
I guess she's right about that.
Yeah, 3 is impressive. Well, and I'll say this too. With us having a podcast about trying to get, in better shape, I'm sure we're going to have people say, you're doing this, that, or the other wrong. And we probably are. All right. Whenever you try and do something, there's always going to be someone that instead of like congratulating you and motivating you is going to say like, you're not doing this right. And fitness tends to be one of those things where people get real particular and maybe they are trying to be helpful, but there always is that kind of that attitude of you're not doing it right. So I don't worry too much about that. 3 marathons, totally impressive. I've never done anything close to that. So that's great.
All right. We're all tied up here. So great job. 2 points each.
Okay. Do you have 2 points? Let's see. I think you have 1, don't you? You got the last meal. You have 1 point, Brett.
Well, I'm trying to be tricky. And
speaking of people doing things wrong,
how many times are we going to have to say in this episode that none of us can do math?
Yeah. Seriously.
So I have 1 point. And you have 2. Let's You know what? Would you just keep score from here on out? Because clearly you're
Oh
better at math than
gosh.
me, and none of us are good at it. So,
All I'm doing is I'm keeping track of the ones you've gotten
okay.
right.
All right. All
So
right.
I don't. Okay. Okay. Animals. Am I a cat person, a dog person, or neither?
Well, I know
I'm
you
trying
have
to
a.
keep a straight face here.
Yeah, you might give this one away.
I'm trying.
I would have never expected you to ask that question because I don't think of you as an animal person. I never hear you talk about animals. I know you have a dog. I know you have a dog, but I'm thinking that's more for the kids. I think you kind of like the dog, though, but I don't think you're really an animal person. I know you've been trying to train the dog, so people can get a dog and become animal people. Maybe you have, and maybe I don't know. Maybe you've turned into an animal person, so I'm worried that you've become an animal person, and I don't know that. But if you have become an animal person, you've become a dog one, and so clearly you couldn't be a cat one, and so clearly I cannot touch the goblet in front of you or the goblet. I feel like I'm doing the whole Princess Bride thing here. So let me just stop and say, I think you're still not an animal person.
Well, Brett, I grew up with cats. Only one at a time, but I had three different cats. I do have a dog now, and he is growing on me. But yes, you're correct. I am neither.
Okay, okay. You had me nervous with the cat thing. I thought for sure you were going to be like, and I still love cats. Okay.
No, no.
Okay, good, good, good. Okay, that's. I'm glad I knew that about you. Okay, so now are we tied? Now can we say we're at 2 points each?
I mean, we are at 2 points each, but I think you still have two questions left, and I only have one.
Okay,
So
all
there's
right.
that.
All right, all right. Here we go.
So don't jump the gun here.
No, no, no. I'm not gonna jump the gun here, but okay. Uh, I have a lot of side hobbies, and sometimes it gets me in trouble because I feel like sometimes I'm a jack of all trades and a master of none. But one of the things I like to do on the side is play a little music. It's something me and that connected me to your wife because she plays the piano, and
Right.
so what instruments do I not play? Okay, this is a not question. I'm going to give you three because I play two of these. So, do I not play the piano, the French horn, or the guitar?
I know you play the piano. I know you play the French horn. So it's got to be the guitar.
Yes, sir. It's the one I've always wanted to play, though, and it's the only one I don't play. So, you are correct. That was probably an easy one, but great job.
It was, but then for a split second, I'm like, oh crap. What if it wasn't the French? I'm like, he plays. I know it. So, anyways, yeah.
Good job. Good job. All right. Is this my last question that you're asking me now?
Yeah. So now it's what 3-2? Is that correct?
3-2, but this
Have
is
I-
my
have I
last
lost?
question that you're asking me, and
This is what I get for not writing this down.
we'll figure this out.
Okay. Brett, when I am stressed, do I play video games, watch sports, or go into full blown Danny Tanner mode and clean?
I'm actually not around you when you're stressed. I just hear about it through texts, and sometimes it's after the fact. And so I might have to guess a little bit here. I think those are all great options, and I think you probably, to an extent, do all of them when you're stressed. But one thing I do admire about you is that you do a lot around the house, more than most guys do. I'm super impressed with the involvement you are with the kids and with cooking dinners and with cleaning the house and doing the laundry. In fact, every time I text you, it seems like you're doing laundry. And I know you have a pretty stressful life. I might be wrong, but I'm going to just see if this is the true or not. Do you clean the house when you're stressed?
You are actually dead on. So yes, when I am
Yes.
stressed, I go full Danny Tan. Now I do clean a lot. I will say it, like I do. Not every time I clean is because I'm stressed. I'm also just kind of a little bit of a Danny Tanner neat freak. But yes, when I am stressed, it's like I'm cleaning all over. Like we're going through all the bathrooms, we're getting the floor, like everything. So yeah.
Well, you must be stressed a lot because every time I come over your house, it's spotless. So I'm sorry that you're so stressed,
Well,
man.
like I said, I am just a neat freak, so there is that. But when I am really stressed, so yeah, I'll just nonstop sometimes. So
All right. I guess we're down to the last question here. Okay, remind me the score. The listeners probably have this figured out.
okay, so you got the let's see, you've got the last three, so you've got 3 points.
Okay, and
You got 3 out of 5.
you have 3 points as well, right? You've got one,
Yes.
two,
So it all comes
three.
down to this.
This is it. So we're tied. If you get this right, you win the 2 points. If you get it wrong, we tie, and I guess we both get 2 points, or maybe we could split the points.
We
and
both
each
we
get one.
both lose.
We both no. Let's split the points if we tie. You can have
Okay.
1 point, I'll have 1 point.
Okay, fair enough. Fair
All
enough.
right. Okay, we have to end with a video game question. So, what is my favorite video game series? I already asked you a question about my favorite game. Now, what is my favorite series? A. Assassin's Creed. B. Uncharted. Or C. Metroid.
Oh gosh, and I know you love all of those. I was almost waiting for you to throw Mario in there too. As much as you love Uncharted, I'm gonna rule that one out. I'm gonna go with Metroid just because you're a nostalgic person, and that's something that goes farther back for you. I might be wrong, but I'm saying Metroid.
You are wrong, my friend. I liked your logic, but it is Assassin's Creed.
Dang it! Dang it! I was going back and forth. I'm
Dang
like, I
it.
don't know.
Dang it for not for me though. Good for me. So we each get a point. Yay! Yeah. So I like your logic there. The only reason I didn't go with Metroid is some of those games are hard. Some of those older games, right? And
Yeah.
I actually didn't really get into Metroid until Metroid Prime. I played the others when I was a young kid, and I had, I grew up with a Nintendo and a Super Nintendo. I'm a child of the '80s, and they were freaking hard games back in the day. I didn't beat them until I was an adult, those other games. And there's some weird games in the series like Metroid Other M for the Wii that I never really got into. And even the ones that I really love, the Prime series, it's my favorite. I don't get the itch to play it every second of every day like I do Assassin's Creed. When I'm playing an Assassin's Creed game, I am just hungry to get back into that world. I love history. I love the culture. I love the combat. I love the exploration. I love the open world. I love the leveling. I just love it so much.
Dang it. Well, you know what kind of threw me for loops? I remember a few years ago, one of your many gaming spreadsheets, I think it was before Metroid Dread came out, that you listed that you wanted to play every single Metroid game. And I know you have a lot of, trinkets related to Metroid. You have the special edition 3DS XL, and which, by the way, is worth a ton of money.
It's right there on my shelf behind me.
Yeah. So anyways, I was back and forth, but yeah, totally blew it at the end.
I understand why you picked it, but you blew it at the end. But you made me feel better about myself because I was blowing it at the beginning. So I'm glad we could end our first mini game with a tie, 1 point to each of us. That means you get 1 point in the mini game, and I get 1 point. So that brings our total points on the skill tree for this month up to 9 points for you. So you're only 1 point away from level 2, and it gets me up to 6 points. So I'm still 3 points behind in the overall point scheme, but we're still both level 1. So
Both level 1.
I feel good about that because you had an opportunity there in the mini game to pass me and get up into level 2. So I'm just, even though I'm behind, We're still both
I'm
level
like
one.
I'm like a Bears kicker hitting the crossbar and breaking your hopes. So looking at you, Parky. So still mad about that from like 5 years ago.
That's the thing with sports, right? Oh, they just cut you deep sometimes.
Okay, Brett, well, scoot over, make room on the couch. It is couch co-op time. And couch co-op time, Brett. We mentioned in the beginning of the episode that neither one of us reached our goal for couch co-op. So we're going to make this real simple and real easy for this one. We both decided, and I'm sorry if I'm taking this away from you, what we both decided that we're both invested in God of War. And while normally we're not going to try and make the couch co-op goal the same month to month, we want to make that our goal to finish God of War this month. Do you agree with that?
I agree with that for a lot of reasons. It's a great game. It's a masterpiece. We loved the first one. This was our first goal we reviewed, and we both failed. And so I feel like we need a mulligan. This is like golf, and it's like we missed the first drive. You know, it kind of the ball teetered off the tee and just rolled a few yards. Right. And I'm like, oh, what a way to start. That's, you know, not a good first impression. So let's get it done this month. That's a great co-op goal, and keep it simple. Let's just keep it rolling.
It definitely will not be our goal the follow. If for some reason, even if we're near the end, like this is it. I already know what the couch co-op goal probably will be next month, and it's not this. So this is our chance. We're going to get it done.
Get it done. All right. I'm committed. How else are we going to earn points for next month?
Well, Brett, one other way, and we've mentioned this before, we only had one last month, but is our side missions. So let's go ahead and dive right into the side missions.
All right, now I like these side missions, Josh, because you can have unlimited side missions. And as we mentioned in the first episode, they could be something that we just do in a day. They could be something that takes a week. But these are just like smaller little micro goals. Now, we only had one side mission last time, like you said. So this could be a chance for me to make up ground. I'm down by 3 points. So if I could get a lot of side missions done, just like in the real world of gaming, you can make up ground that way, right? If you're under level and you're trying to prepare for a main mission and you're at level 10 and the mission requires you to be at level 12, well, what do? You go do a bunch of side quests. So we're going to let's grind it out. Let me ask you, how many side quests are you going to try and take on? Are you going to just do one again? Is that all you're going to do, weak boy? Or are you going to step it up this month?
Weak boy. I like how you're calling me names. The later in the night it gets, the more it comes out. Weak boy.
Some competitiveness to this, as if there wasn't enough already.
Okay. I believe I have 5. And I'll go ahead and tell you.
Gosh, you are stepping it up.
I mean, well, so here's the thing. They are side missions. Generally speaking, you don't knock them all out. So, you know, they're optional. So the first one I have, and this one really for me is not optional, but is to start and complete my eBay taxes spreadsheet. It's February. I have an appointment with my accountant later at the end of the month. And so I really need to do this. Like we talked about, yard sales are a big thing for me. So much so that I have to pay taxes on them. So every year I have a spreadsheet that I have to fill out, which goes over how much I paid, how many miles I drove. It's actually rather intense. It'll probably take me a number of hours to fill it out for the year. But yes, that is my first side quest, and that is one that I better get done. So
Uncle Sam is calling. You better get that done.
yes. Okay, what's your first one, Brett?
Well, if you're gonna do 5, I'm looking at my list here. I better do 5 too. Why don't we start with some low-hanging fruit because I need a point. Okay. I am not much of a reader. Well, I take that back. I love to read. I read a lot for work. I don't read a lot for pleasure. And 2 Christmases ago, 2020, my lovely wife Janine bought me a book that I really wanted to read called Ready Player 2. You may recognize it from as the sequel to Ready Player 1, which was also a book, but made into a movie by Steven Spielberg based on video games. And I have been working on that book for 2 years. Yes, this is how pathetic it is. But I only have about 4 or 5 chapters left. But I've had 4 or 5 chapters left for months. So
Yes.
I am going to finish this book for a side quest. It's time to finish Ready Player 2.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, my next one. Last month, we mentioned that I don't like going to the doctor. For a number of reasons. I don't like taking time off work, and I really don't like that it seems like every time you go to the doctor for anything, it's kind of almost like you have to have that first appointment where you just meet with the doctor, and then there's that actual second appointment where they finally do anything. So I don't like going to the doctor. So the side quest for me isn't necessarily to go to the doctor, but to make the doctor's appointment. So it might end up being sometime in March. I might not do this at all because I am feeling very hesitant about this.
That's not a good attitude, Josh. If you're going to set a goal,
not, but I'm being honest.
Get your attitude
I'm being
right.
honest. We'll see.
Actually, I hope, well, as a friend, I hope you do this because, as we mentioned in the first episode, it's important to take care of yourself. And you just never know, right? We had a good friend of ours in her 30s have breast cancer. And usually and she didn't have a family history of it. And if she hadn't been going to the doctor regularly, she might not have caught it in time. And thankfully, she's a survivor. But, I want you healthy, but I also want to win this game. So I guess I don't want to be upset either way. At least your wife's a nurse. So if something were to happen to you, at least she kind of knows maybe how to help you medically anyway. All right. Well, speaking of medical stuff, this really has nothing to do with medical, but it's kind of related. My next goal is to donate plasma. Now, that may sound like a good humanitarian thing to do. And I do donate blood for free. And that is something that I believe in, and my wife really believes in, and has really encouraged me to do. And we know there's a lot of need in hospitals. I'm sure your wife could talk about that. But when you donate the plasma, you also get a little cha-ching on the side. And with being in the new house, I have a few more expenses than I did before moving, and so I don't have as much. What are the funds called? The extra kind of funds.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I'll cut this part out, but
just expend.
Yeah, there's a name for it. Like when you can
spending money.
Yeah, spending money.
I know what you're thinking
You
of,
know the
and
word
I
I'm
can't
thinking
think
of.
of
Anyway,
it right now.
I want those kinds of funds so I can buy some games that are coming out soon. So I'm going to donate a little plasma and get me some gaming money.
Nice. Okay, well, my next one, and I hope you do, because with the games, I hope you check that one off the list. My next one is to clean the garage, and the reason why is because wintertime isn't a time that I like being outdoors. Actually, a couple weeks ago, I had a Saturday morning where I had some free time, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go clean the garage today. Walked out into the garage. It was 15 degrees outside, and I walked back inside, and I was like, not today.
No, sir. Good choice.
So wintertime, the garage tends to, you get a lot of stuff from the holidays, and I'm just not spending as much time out in it, so it tends to get a little junky. So, I mean, a lot of these side quests are kind of like a honeydew list, but really, cleaning the garage is something that I would like to knock out, and I think it's something that I could knock out.
That is a great goal. My garage, same thing happens in the winter for the very same reasons. I don't want to be out there and junk piles up. I love that goal. And by having it be so cold, you were able to wait and add it to your list and maybe earn points for it. So, if you hadn't done that, if it had been a warmer day, you would have done this and not earned any points. So smart move there, true. Weather. Okay, my next side quest is I am planning a Bodden family reunion. My cousin and I used to do these together, and we haven't done one in quite some time, and it's time to get the Bodden family together. We actually went out to lunch with her last Saturday to do some initial planning, and the next step is to collect all of the cell phone numbers and to text all the Bodden clan a form that they can sign up for if they want to receive notifications about the activities and dates and timelines and obligations and all those things that are going to be going into the family reunion. So that is my goal, is to send out to collect all those cell phones of all the Bodden family, and hopefully we can do it, because it'll be a good time if we can get the whole Boddens together. When the Boddens get together, fun happens and other things happen.
Wild, unspeakable things.
Unspeakable things.
Okay. The next one that I had is to test and list a Spider-Man PS4 Pro. So and I've already talked about with eBay, that I will pick things up and video game stuff mostly and sell them on eBay if I find them for a good price. Wintertime is really slow for me as far as that goes. There's no yard sales here. And then it seems like a lot of how to say this, there's definitely a group of people that hit yard sales really hard. And I see the same people out at the sales with me. And I think a lot of those people in the wintertime transition to hitting the classified ads really hard. So summertime, I can still find things on classified ads. It's definitely gotten harder over the years. Wintertime is really hard. The other day, I picked up the first thing I'd picked up in months, and it was a Spider-Man PS4 Pro.
Nice.
And it has just been sitting in my office, even though I don't have hardly anything on eBay right now. It's just been sitting there, and I need some motivation to plug it in, test it out, make sure it works. I should have tested it the night that I got it, because if it doesn't work, I'm just out the money at this point. But anyways, I haven't touched it, so it's to test and list and get it out of here, get it sold, that Spider-Man PS4 Pro.
Well, I hope for your sake that it is in good working order, and chances are it will be, because PS4 Pros.
And if not, it'll be a display piece on the back of my shelf here.
That's true. Could be a very expensive paperweight, which is on my
I
shelf behind me. I have a Switch Lite that would cost. I sent it to Nintendo, thinking that it was just a battery that needed to be replaced for $20, and they returned it. And well, they didn't return it. They said, we can fix it for you, but it's not a battery issue. It's like $130 fix. I'm like, that's how much a new one is, practically. So
right.
I had them return it to me, and now it's just on display. So that does happen from time to time, unfortunately. But I hope it doesn't happen in your case. That's a great side mission. My next side mission, and before I do this, I remembered while you were talking the word I was looking for about donating plasma. It's called discretionary funds. It's an amount of money that is available to spend on things that are not considered necessary, but may be useful. What could be more useful than video games?
There you go.
So discretionary
nothing.
funds.
Absolutely nothing.
Maybe one of my goals should be to work on my vocabulary and having it come back to my memory. Anyway, you and I both love sports. We love basketball. You've done some coaching. This is my first go around in coaching basketball. I've coached softball before for my kids. So I'm coaching my daughter's junior jazz basketball team, assistant coach. And so I haven't had to plan any of the practices. I've just showed up and the coach has taken care of it. Well, next week, coach is going to be out of town. So assistant coach Bodden's in charge of the entire practice. Nice. And this could go one of two ways. I could show up to practice totally unprepared and fake it because I can do that with kids. That's what I do for my job. And I could get through an hour of practice.
I fake it.
And just fake the whole thing, and they would think I know, but I would feel bad about that. So my side quest is to actually do a little research, maybe even text you what are some dribbling activities, what are some shooting activities I could do. So I actually walk in with kind of maybe a plan in mind of how the practice is going to go.
Well, funny you mentioned that. I am coaching my son's team right now, and this is the 10th time I've coached one of my kids basketball. It's the only thing I feel comfortable coaching because I played all grown up. So yeah, reach out to me. I can definitely help you with putting a practice together because I used to write out and plan it all out, but I've done it so many times now where it's second nature. So yeah, feel free to reach out on that one. Okay. So my last one here, and I'm actually changing it up. So the one that I wrote down, I'm not going to mention that because there's something else that I want to make sure that I keep doing. So my wife and I are going to be going to France and Switzerland in the end of April. And so I've been doing every day Duolingo, so that I not that I'm going to be speaking French because goodness,
Parlez-vous français?
No. But as someone that took Spanish in high school, French does not make sense to me. There's a lot, Spanish, you can phonetically make sense of most of it. French, you cannot. There's a lot of silent and soft letters and sounds. And so anyways, so my goal is I've been doing Duolingo every day, and a lot of times it's like 3 to 5 minutes. But my goal is to continue to do it daily. And I'm going to, since daily for every single day might be kind of hard, I'm going to give myself 3 days that I can miss it in the month.
Wow, that sounds
and like
more
I said,
like a main
it's only
quest. That's impressive.
It's only 3 to 5 minutes. It's only 3 to 5 minutes a day. So yeah,
okay,
so I'm gonna say Duolingo.
Still, very impressive goal, and what a cool trip you get to go on. I can't wait to hear about that. And my 3 daughters have been in a French dual immersion program. So you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. You help me with the basketball. If you need any help with your French lessons, I'll get my daughters on speakerphone, and they're all fluent in French. So, but it is a very difficult language. I hear them speak it, and I'm just like, "What? That's not what that says. That's not what those. That's not the sound those letters make."
They can make fun of me the whole time. Pretty much, I'm doing it just so I can say like hello, goodbye, thank you, like very, very basic things. So,
that would be fun. That's a great goal. Okay, my last one is also something for you. I have a hoodie that we made. We were so excited about this podcast that we got ourselves a logo, and we've got a little Fit Dad Game Dad logo, and I got 2 hoodies made. One for me, one for you. It's been too cold to wear a hoodie. You've needed to wear a winter coat. But I'm hoping February it'll start to feel more like spring's on the way and maybe we hoodie weather. So my goal is to deliver to you 45 minutes up north your Fit Dad Game Dad hoodie.
Gosh, I feel like that would be a win for me. So yeah, I'll support this one.
It's a win-win. Okay, I get the points, you get the hoodie.
I have one last one, but it is a challenge for you.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and now listen carefully because it might sound like a lot, but it's not.
Okay.
The challenge for you is my friend Sean Capri has a podcast called We the Gamercast, where he has, as he calls it, sweet hangs, basically kind of like this, just a one-on-one conversation with someone. And a lot of times it's with podcasters and how they started their podcast, or just gamers in general, and just kind of, it can kind of go wherever. There's not really a form to it, but typically speaking, there's a lot of podcasters on there. And I have for the longest time wanted you to be a guest. And I have pushed and pushed and pushed.
Kind of like you pushing me to start a podcast, and you won that battle. So you'll probably win this one too.
Yes. So here is a side quest. It's not to be a guest this month. It is simply to reach out to Sean to direct message him
You say simple.
and to express interest to be a future guest at some point, because he might have a mile-long list of guests.
Yeah.
And he might say like, cool, I'll get you on in September.
Yeah. But just expressing interest is me committing to possibly doing it, and it's the reason I haven't done it is not because I don't think it's a great idea. I'm actually very insecure about being on podcasts, and that's why I didn't initially want to do this podcast with you. And the only reason I'm doing this is because I feel so comfortable with you. I don't know Sean very well at all.
I'll tell you this, Sean does a great job of leading the discussion and making the guests feel comfortable. So I promise you this, if you ever are a guest, you'll come back and say that was a fun time.
All right, I'm going to trust you on this one. Okay.
These are totally optional.
Right. All these are optional. All these are optional.
This is me shooting my shot here to try and get you to be on the show.
Well, it is a simple way to get 2 points, because all I got to do is just message Sean. I don't have to do anything else. So
that's all you have to do.
Okay, that's it. And I need the points, so I'm going to do this. Well, you know what? Let me give you a challenge too, but it's not so simple for you. It's simple for me. Okay, usually this month I would have failed at this challenge. But Josh, I want to challenge you for a side quest to only play 3 games. Because I get a text from you every other day, and it's like, hey, I found this game on the GameCube and I played it for an hour. And I found this game on the Nintendo Switch that I played, an indie game. And then, I got out my N64 and I tried this. And then, I downloaded this on my... what's your new one that you just got? Your new handheld? Your
the Steam Deck.
The Steam Deck, yeah. And I'm like, Josh, focus, ADD man. So I'm giving you 3. 3. That's a lot of games you can play, but no more. If I hear you've been playing 4 or 5 or 6 games, no points for you. No points for you.
Okay, I will try, but knowing God of War is one of them, and then knowing I still have my actual gaming goal, which won't be God of War, so there's
2.
2 right there.
You only get one more.
Me...
I guess if you think of it that way, it sounds like kind of a harsh goal, huh? Well,
so we'll see. I will try.
Okay.
I will try, and I will probably fail miserably.
Well, it's totally optional, so you don't even have to try if you don't want to. All right.
Okay, Brett. Well, enough of this grinding. We've talked way too long, so it is time to get to the main quests. So here we go. Okay, so Brett, I guess I'll start off first. My main gaming goal. So you were just mentioning earlier about how I jump all around, and that was one of the problems last month. Is I started playing Fable Anniversary, and I put like 5 or 6 hours into it, and I actually really enjoyed it. But then I'm like, I gotta play these gaming goals. And then I started on my Steam Deck because I do, you know this, the listeners might not. I tend to like to have one console game and one handheld game that I'm playing at the same time, because it gives me a little bit of variety, and if I don't have time to play on the TV, maybe I can sneak in a few minutes here and there on a handheld. So I started playing the game Sleeping Dogs, which a lot of people probably played on the PS3 or Xbox 360. I've been playing that on my Steam Deck. I'm probably about 5 or 6 hours into it. Really enjoying it. But I do want to finish that. Now, here's where it gets hard. Is my goal was to finish that and then to put 4 hours into my next game. I didn't decide what the next game would be because I know how I've changed my mind 30 times over the course of 30 days. You know this. I'll text you and say, like, I'm going to play this next, and then I play something totally out of left field. So 4 hours into my next game. So if I play God of War, if I play Sleeping Dogs, and then I have one other game, those are my 3 games for that side quest.
if you do that, you achieve two goals. You achieve a side quest goal and a main mission goal. So it's kind of killing two birds with one stone. So it's smart. I like it. I like how you're thinking.
It is, but I could mess up this goal in one night, knowing me too. So
Yeah, yeah. That's
we'll see.
We'll see. Okay.
But that is my gaming goal, is finish Sleeping Dogs in 4 hours into whatever the next game is.
I love it. I love it. I'd love to hear about Sleeping Dogs too, because that's one I've been curious about. All right, I have to go simple with my gaming goal, because if our co-op goal is really to finish God of War, and we really got to do it since we failed so miserably last time, that's just got to be my main focus. So my main mission gaming goal has to be smaller as far as time, but still significant. I don't want it to feel like I'm cheating, and so we've been getting together in January as a family on Mondays. A lot of people call these family home evenings in our culture, meaning our Utah culture. There's a lot of influence here from the predominant religion, which is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And it's one of the things that particular organization encourages families to do. And we've had a lot of success with it. We get together as a family. We share some messages about the gospel, and we have a treat, and then we play a game. Well, like any family, and especially as kids get older, it's harder and harder to find time to get everybody together. And we always start the year really well, and then by the end of the year, we're not doing it. So by the end of 2022, we weren't doing these family home evenings, and we've started up again in January. And one of the things we did this month of January is we played Mario Party 8 together. I found it at a yard sale, and it's one I've always wanted and have never played. It's not one you can try out by yourself. It was a new game to me, and so I'm like, hey, let's do this for family home evening. And we had so much fun playing a video game together. So my goal is to play a video game of some sort as part of our activity at family home evening twice in the month of February. Now, that might not seem like a lot, but if we get together as a family, all 5 of us, twice in a month, that's a huge accomplishment. And then adding a video game on top of that, I feel like it's still a rigorous enough goal, but it's not time consuming in terms of the amount of time I put into gaming, but it's still significant.
Right. And I do like that you're still keeping the focus on God of War as far as gaming, because that is really something that we both really do want to knock out. So, and having your gaming goal do something with your kids, that's great. I love that. I thought about something similar, but yeah, maybe I'll have that for a future one. Okay, so fitness goal. I'm going to first say this. I have a lot of fitness goals right now. I'm motivated by this podcast. I'm motivated by this upcoming trip I have. I don't want to be the typical fat American.
That's 2 great motivators there.
I'm also realistic. Like, I know I'm not going to get where I want to be in a couple months, but I think I could get to a point that I'd be really happy with my progress. So I'm going to tell you this just because I want to put it out there, but this is not my fitness goal for the podcast. So because I have 2 of them and I'm only allowed 1, but I'm just putting this out there, and I'll report back on it, but this won't be for points. But weight wise, I want to get down to 246 pounds by the end of the month. I'm currently about, I think I said 255. So 9 pounds down. I want to be in the mid 240s, but 246. It's a short month. That's where I want to be. Now, as far as my actual goal that I'm going to be accountable for points is, I put an exercise goal, and I want to have 30 minutes of exercise 10 times this month. In 28 days, 30 minutes of exercise 10 times this month. And then I want to have at least 15 minutes of exercise 10 other times. So 20 out of the 28 days, I need to have at least 15, but then also half of those need to be at least 30.
I have never set a goal like that with fitness, where I broke my exercise into a smaller chunk and a bigger chunk. That's a great way to do it, because if you're not feeling motivated one day to exercise, you can say, well, today I'm just going to do the 15-minute one. I love that. That's a great idea, Josh.
Yeah. I didn't want it. I mean, initially the goal was I wanted to have the 30 minutes of exercise 10 times. I was kind of looking at the calendar. I'm like, you know what? I don't think I'm going to have time to do it like daily as much as I'd like to, but I also wanted to make sure on the days that I'm not hitting that I'm still getting up, moving. So yeah, so that's the fitness goal.
Perfect goal.
Okay, Brett, what is your fitness goal?
Well, I want to keep it simple as well because I didn't achieve my fitness goal last month, but I still had good fitness. If you remember, I exercised 16 times. My goal was to do 5 times a week. So one thing I like about goal setting is using a baseline. So if you don't quite get your goal one month, don't try, or at least I found success in not trying to set a high goal again. I especially with you said it being a short month, I like to start where I am. So I was at 16. So what I'm going to try and do is exercise 18. That's going 2 more. Doesn't seem like a lot, but it's a short month. But it's starting from where I was and realizing, okay, I'm not at the 20 that I thought I could get to in January. I'm actually really at 16. So let's split that difference in a short month. Let's get up to exercising 18 times.
Nice. I do like that. That's great. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the eating goal. So mine is fairly similar to last month, but I'm just upping the bar ever so slightly. So I'm going to stick with the logging daily. That's important to me. That makes a big difference. My goal last month was to be under calories 80% of the time. I got 89. So my goal this month, and it might not sound like a difference, but it is to be under my calories 85% of the time. Now, full transparency, today is the 3rd. I already had one day, the 2nd, where I went over calories.
Okay.
So that 85% is going to be serious. It's a short month. I'm going to have to really buckle down to get it. So for me, I feel like that is a achievable, but also a tough goal.
Well, and I like that both of us have recognized, and hopefully our listeners are if you're listening to the podcast to get ideas, you're hearing us tailor our goals to what's realistic for what we know is happening in the month and what we know is happening in our lives. And it's not about necessarily getting a ton better each month or setting a harder and harder goal. It's, and even if you achieved above your goal, you don't have to set a goal even above that. It's what's realistic for the time you have. And I love that's what you've done in this particular goal. So, great work with that. My eating.
Well, and
go ahead. Yeah.
Just sorry, real quick. I will say this because I mentioned that we're going to Europe in April. When that time comes, I'm probably going to have I'm going to try and keep it within reason, but chocolate, France, Switzerland.
Oh, yeah.
I'm probably going to have to adjust my goals accordingly. And even like with weight, it'll probably be one of those things where I take a couple steps back temporarily and then have to get back on track. And that's okay, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You got to enjoy your time in Europe. Hello. You can't, you're going to probably eat more than you would.
We're not going to be perfect. We're not fitness experts. We're just, like I said, trying to incrementally get better.
Yeah, and really, and going back to what we said in the first episode, we're just trying to feel good in our bodies and have energy to do the things we love. So, and what's more fun than traveling, with and going to these new amazing places. So, yeah, just get your body in a place where you're going to be walking a lot probably on this trip and enjoy the food. And if you take a step back, no problem. Don't beat yourself up. That's great. Okay, one of the things I beat myself up for last month was eating after I thought I was done tracking calories. So I'm like, how can I overcome that this month? And what it goes back to is cravings, controlling cravings for me. And the most success I've found in controlling cravings is through using intermittent fasting. Now, there's a lot of reasons people use intermittent fasting. There's a lot of research into how it burns fat faster and how your body metabolizes food and the time it needs to have a break between eating so that it could start using its own natural energy sources, and all those things are true, I believe. But the biggest benefit I've found from it is it helps me with self control. If I can force myself to not eat for a period of time, then um, later in the day when the cravings come, I can think back to the sacrifice I made in the morning and say, hey, no, you did it this morning. You were able to go an extra 2 or 3 hours without eating from when you would typically eat breakfast. Usually, for me, intermittent fasting is delaying that breakfast. It just gives me willpower to say, hey, I did it this morning. I can do it this evening too. So and now there's different intervals of intermittent fasting, but one of the more common ones is the 16-to-8 ratio, which means you eat for 8 hours a day and then you fast for 16 hours. So if I stop eating at 8:30 at night, like I normally do, I wouldn't eat until about 12:30 the next day. And I've done this before for periods of time, and it has a lot of health benefits. But I'm hoping it will help me in this time get those cravings back under control. So my goal is to practice intermittent fasting every day, except because I am skipping breakfast. That's the way I do it. And breakfast is my favorite meal. I'm going to allow myself 2 breakfasts during the month.
Okay.
And they'll probably be kind of a cheating breakfast. They'll probably be high in carbs, but that's okay because I'm not worried about that right now. But so 16-to-8 fasting every other day, though, except those 2 days where I get breakfast.
Nice. I like that. And I hope you can make it. I know one of the things that's been really helpful for me, and not doing exactly that, but is the timing and when I eat. Like if I eat breakfast too early, I eat lunch too early. If I eat dinner too early, then I'll want to eat again. So yeah, there definitely is something to be said about trying to space things out, and that really does help a lot. So yeah. I hope you hit that. I think that would be awesome. That's a great.
I hope
great
you
goal.
hit yours too, because these goals here, I never want it to be the type of competition where I'm hoping that you don't earn points, because this is main missions. This is where it matters the most. Now, some of our other honeydew stuff, maybe I hope you slip up a little bit, but good luck on your main missions.
And on those, I probably will, yeah. And even on these occasions, we're not.
Well, I just got some catching up to do, Josh. I want to come back next month, and I want to hit level 2 at the same time you hit level 2.
See, and I gotta get ahead of you, because like I said, I'm looking down the calendar. I'm like, I gotta get a little bit of a lead built up if I can. So, okay, Brett, any parting words you have, or if you want to tell the people where they can find you, please go ahead and share.
Well, I think all I want to say is this month is the month of love, but it's also National Reading Month. And that's one of the reasons I didn't mention this when my side goal was dealing with finishing a book. And if you have kids out there, my message this month is to read to your kids. There's nothing more important you can do to help them in their education is just simply reading to them. So get a book, go to the library and read. And then if you want to read some of the stuff that I write, you can check that out on Twitter at Hoptonger. Find me at Hoptonger, and I'll try and write some messages this month. And if you write me a message, I'll write you back.
Great. Yeah, and I can't say anything to top what you said, so I'm just going to leave it at that. You can find me at MTTG Street Team on Twitter as well. So, Brett, remember, in life, there are Glass Joes and there are King Hippos. You don't have to be either. Set your goals, get going, and come along with us as we strive to be both fit dads and game dads. Until next time, we'll see you later.